I really need to get off of Dragon Age Belgard. So, well, no, I don't think I will. I watched this guy's video before, Hero High. That's pretty neat. But yeah, I mean, what else is there to say that hasn't already been beaten to death about Dragon Age Veilguard? And the tactics they use to try selling the game. Not much. Not much. It's just very interesting to get other people's perspective in it. So yeah, let's give this a watch.
Earlier today, the review embargo for Dragon Age the Veilguard has officially lifted, and now there's lots of new and interesting information being released about the game. One of the more common critiques seems to be with the dialogue. Some examples of that can be seen with this character Tosh.
Jathan said to eat the fruit before it spoils.
I like the cookies better.
Everyone likes the cookies better.
I'll eat the fruit. Thank you, Avatash.
Panahe done. I'll see you soon.
So, the Dragon Hunter has a softer side.
The Kyun says you take care of people.
So, you're a little Kunari, a little Rivani, and a little dragon?
Yeah?
I get that.
Come on. I should tell my mother how Karash is doing.
On top of
Yeah, that's just okay. Again, I have more respect if they would just add a trans character instead of adding a female, but making her just look like a dude just by proportions, by the face, right? I mean, Quinari women still do look feminine. At least they did in the other Dragon Age games. But now I guess this just looks like a human cosplaying as a Quinari. Again, another aspect that is being stripped away from fantasy is everything that makes it fantasy, right? So, and that's one aspect that, again, people say, but if you do this, like the individual with the ideology will spurg out at you, right? It's like, no, I mean, I have this things down to a T, right? If I see things like this, I'm not gonna buy the game. I mean,
people criticizing the awkward dialogue and the voice acting. Many would also point out that pop-up on the left-hand side. You can see it reads, "You've chosen to encourage Tosh by focusing on the benefits of a multicultural background." For example, one commenter would say, "It's totally fine to believe that multiculturalism is a good thing, but to feel that it needs to be an actual plot point spelled out in plain writing, taking place within a dark fantasy video game concerning an epic tale of good versus evil, then it's nothing more than literal politics being shoved down our throats. It's also more evidence of how a racially diverse cast equal entire thing is going to be loaded with preachy, on-the-nose social lecturing."
yeah, again, these are people throwing current day things that they know the consumer don't like. They know the consumer don't care about, but they're throwing it in there anyway. Again, maybe to raise the ESG, or maybe because the consultants demand it, right? Or maybe again, it's this this entertainment culture of toxic positivity where someone add this in and you're not supposed to be like, why? Like, what does this add? It adds nothing. Like, who the fuck cares? Again, in a dark fantasy video game.
It's pretty telling when companies like this are unable to make a diverse game, without also making it feel so shallow and fake. After all, there's been many games that have actually included a very diverse cast of characters, and it turns out when the games aren't so preachy about the whole thing, it comes off much more natural, and those games often find far more success. Another clip that's going viral in gaming circles is this one.
I'm from Ravane. Not like I follow the Kyun.
You've got the arm ropes.
Sure. I wear a lot of stuff. You don't get to tell me who I am. Doesn't matter anyway. The Anton don't follow the Kyun either. Not anymore.
A Dragon Age fan, or perhaps now an ex-Dragon Age fan, would say, "Man, that second clip makes me mad. The Kyun is what made the Qunari so interesting."
Yeah, I mean, again, they took away what made fantasy fantasy. But and again, that would make for an interesting character in other situations. But that dialogue just seemed preachy. Like you had a chance to go into her backstory without making it seem, oh, you don't get to tell me who I am because I wear a robe. Who do you think you ain't? It's like, bitch, shut the fuck up, dumb bitch. I think screams fantasy world more than modern game gender lingo. Yeah, non-binary. Again, this word doesn't just does not exist in Dragon Age. What the fuck does again current day? I gotta take the dog out. I am not editing this out. Ah, oh, losing. Oh. Oh, my booty hole. But yeah, it's like people, you know this when you see it. But again, if you work in these companies, you're not allowed to be like, no, this is bad. This adds nothing to the game, because then they'll just fire you. They don't care if you're the best coder. They don't care if you do your job. They don't care if you've worked there and actually built the company from the ground up. If you don't follow their fringe radical ideology that not even the majority of Americans hold, right? You know, they use the oversimplification of things that anyone can agree with, and even if people don't, they understand that it's there, right? And because of that, you get things like these.
Another post reading, nothing screams a fantasy world more than modern day gender lingo. How did gaming get here? The provided screenshot shows Tosh saying, non-binary I just said, and I'm going to use they instead of she from now on. Back to the...
Exactly. It's like, what, this is a gender studies class dialogue. This isn't dark fantasy dialogue.
Topic of the review embargo, as well as what some people are saying about the reviews. Around 6 hours ago, Fextralife posted a very interesting video about the game. He opens by talking about
we talked about that.
History of covering Dragon Age content, including saving the Bioware forums and being in constant communication with EA and Bioware for years. EA had also invited them to attend the official Veilguard preview event back in September, and after attending the event and playing the game there, they made their impressions video. In their preview video, they were essentially cautiously optimistic, enjoying some things about Veilguard, but also critiquing other things like the character designs and models.
In general, it was a pretty positive impression of the video, and I want to play for you the closing audio from that video right now so you can see what we told our audience at the end of that video. I still have issues with the game, mainly that I don't like the UI and that the dialogues didn't seem to be on par with what you could get in other story-focused games that have come out in the last decade, and that I didn't yet get a point where I felt a bond or much interest with my companions who were integral to the story. It's funny that I have pretty much been playing these games for the story and getting through the combat, but I may actually be playing the Veilguard to enjoy the combat and get through the story to see the end. How everything works together and progresses into a full game remains to be seen, and there were several big and impactful events that I cannot discuss, but so far my opinion on this has become more positive, and I would like to urge anyone who loves CRPGs to hang in there and wait for reviews and not write the game off just yet.
The point he's making is that their first impressions video was extremely mild, and some people even said that if anything, they were being too positive about the game. And yet it seems like that very impressions video actually upset EA, as after that video was released, they entirely ceased communications with Fextralife. Fextralife then reached out to other contacts to try and figure out what was going on, and they found out that them and apparently some other creators as well were getting fake assurances from EA that they would be given a code for the game to access it early in order to put out an early review. It turns out that that wasn't the case, as the codes never came, and the communications continued to cease. This is similar to the situation that we discussed just the other day regarding Wolfheart FPS. Interestingly enough, a Spanish trader had reported that she actually lied to Bioware, telling them that she's non-binary, and believe it or not, she actually did receive a code. Someone had responded to her tweet in the included images, saying 0 time played seems a little sus though, to which she responded with a clown emoji and showed that she actually now has an hour and a half played, proving that she does indeed have access to the game before its official release. Apparently,
yeah, again, it's what the fuck does that have to do with the game, right? It's like, they're clearly going for the ideology, right? And they can't even, like, act like it's not being done, right? Because they can't even lie about it anymore. They can't lie about the tactics they're doing, or I guess they can to normies, but again, it just won't fly. Like I said in my last video, they are flipping the fuck out, right, about this. They need this to sell, and they will do whatever tactic they can to have it done.
Apparently, Bioware had actually retaliated against her over this entire situation, as she showed evidence that she had received a DMCA strike, going on to say that the tweet that was hit was the one where she was talking about receiving that code from Bioware. However, she went on to appeal the strike, Twitter seemingly taking her side and releasing her account. Now returning to Fextra Life in the context of their most recent video on Veilguard, the one where he talks about not receiving a code to get that early review out, well, he goes on to make a very compelling argument about why EA is operating in such a manner, basically claiming that this is a way for them to manipulate the upcoming reviews and ensure that most of the early reviews are going to be positive ones. This would then also allow them to manipulate the sentiment around the game, making it seem overly positive around the time of release, with the ultimate goal of having boosted sales.
Because you guys told us in no uncertain terms that you're waiting for reviews, and you're about to get a bunch of reviews that have been curated by the publisher for their likelihood of being extremely positive in an attempt to manipulate your view of Dragon Age: The Veilguard. They want you to think there is a universal consensus that the game is amazing, thereby convincing you that you should try it, but also influencing future review scores, as it's difficult to be the outlier. So if you see a bunch of positive review scores come out today, think about all the people that are going to be playing afterward and how much pressure they're going to feel to give the game a slightly better score than they would have given it, just to avoid maybe some undue pressure. And sometimes that doesn't even happen consciously. It's
Bringing the dog back in. Ooh. Yeah, I've never. I mean, I've already been over this video, right? But yeah, I mean, and again, it's the fact that they've just continued to erode the trust, right? Because again, they're, other content creators like Asmongold, right? Like Moist Critical, and probably like Angry Joe, like people who are specifically known for reviewing games that come out, and they have to do this. Like, it is effectively their job to review games, right? And they themselves, I know that Moist Critical and fucking Asmongold didn't. Like, Asmongold said he came in with low expectations, and surprisingly enough, he's surprised that he didn't hate the game even more than he did when he played it, right? But yeah, I mean, people see the tactic, and now, again, that level of trust has been eroded even more. I don't think Mass Effect Afterward, if it even comes out, I doubt it will be rated so fucking highly. I mean, at this point, they might as well just make a new IP by people who can actually fucking create.
It's just done subconsciously. And I want to be very clear here that I don't think that the press and creators publishing their videos early are going to be lying. However, these reviewers have been screened to maximize the chances that you're seeing positive reviews. There will probably be some exceptions, of course. I don't think everyone's going to give the game a positive review. But EA is banking that those are few and far between in an attempt to keep the aggregate score of the game high.
Once again, I do think he's making a very compelling argument as to the potential logic behind EA's actions. However, I myself am also a bit more cynical, it seems. While I'm sure that there are going to be people who genuinely do enjoy the game, including some who are reviewing it, I absolutely do think that there are going to be some people who are lying about just how much they enjoyed the game. It goes without saying that we can call such people shills. I'd also like to go back to Wolfhard FPS's tweet once again, but here's why. Some of the responses to it are extremely amusing, and contradict some of the very reasonable logic that we already talked about analyzing the entire situation. For example, this tweet reading, My dude, I get that it sucks that you and others didn't get codes, but suggesting that's because you weren't a big fan of the game is freaking ridiculous, and leaving this post up is just going to give the chuds more brain-dead reasons to attack the game, devs, and fans alike.
Yeah, again, it's these types of fucking people that use these types of fucking vocabulary that is why we're in this situation, right? Like, these are the types of people that turns people away from the game without even buying the product, without, like, because the company thinks that this guy right here is the audience, like, he's the wider audience, he's the majority, he's the people that they are trying to market to, and not this. And again, these type of toxic individuals, like, if I see this individual defend a game, I'm not buying the game. It could be the best game on the planet, and it's a matter of principle, right? These people make gaming toxic because they call basic bitch gamers this word chuds. Like, what the fuck? And more brain dead reasons to attack the game devs and fans a lot. Like, these are the individuals that turn people away from the game before it even comes. Like, you shouldn't have these individuals, right?
Because apparently analyzing a situation where corporations may be operating in shady manners and analyzing the logic behind such actions, including their drive to manipulate public sentiment, well, doing that just makes you a chud. Once again, like I said yesterday, there's this weird crossover with some of the largest bootlickers on the internet, some of the biggest corporate defenders out there, simultaneously LARPing as if they're wonderful activists. Another commonly shared sentiment between Dragon Age fans is that Veilguard just doesn't feel like a Dragon Age game, and people are often wondering, what happened to Bioware? I myself haven't played that many Bioware games. However, one of my favorite PC games of all time, and one that helped inspire my love for PC gaming, is in fact the original Neverwinter Nights, so I found this particular part of Mr. Matty Plays video to be very interesting.
Let's get into it, starting with the narrative. This is what I have the most to say about when it comes to the game itself, because it's where I think most of the problems in Dragon Age the Veilguard lie. Tonally, this is just not a Dragon Age game. There's no other way to put it for me. In writing, in music, in visuals, in character work, there were many points throughout my review process where I felt my hands were on an entirely different IP. Now, before I go forward, I just want to...
Yeah, and that's the point, right? They stole the name because they know people would buy it off that alone, but every aspect of the game, like, okay, it has the form of Dragon Age, but none of the substance, none of the things that make Dragon Age as an Dragon Age, the IP, the world, the fantasy world, and none of the characters, like, all the things that make those things pop out to people just don't exist. It's just generic fantasy RPG number 772, right? But they use Dragon Age just to try to grab the people that are, like, interested because of the Dragon Age IP.
I want to frame my criticism a little bit more here, in that I have been a lifelong Bioware fan. My favorite game of all time is Star Wars Knights of the Republic, which is a 2003 RPG from Bioware. But also, they have made games, as you know, like Mass Effect, like Dragon Age Origins. But I have also not fooled myself that the people who made those games I adore so much are no longer at the company, or at least most of them aren't.
This is an unfortunate realization that many of us are having with companies like Bioware, and of course also companies like Bethesda, specifically with Bioware and Veilguard. It seems like they're more intent on pushing out their old fans, and instead trying to find a new group of fans, a more modern group of fans. As
they push out the fans, they push out the old developers, they push out the old story. Like, again, the out with the old, in with the new mentality goes one in one with the ideologies these individuals have, right? And and again, the gamers don't share that mentality. They're like, okay, you made games in the past, you're standing on fucking the shoulders of giants, right? You're a multi-billion-dollar company. You cannot tell me you have absolutely no idea what the consumer wants. And they know they don't, which is why they're trying to push out the old gamers, the old consumers, call them chuds, shove them out for, again, this wider audience of people who don't exist, or at least that guy that I guess he is the quote-unquote wider audience. I doubt he even plays the fucking game, right?
As these corpos like to say. Ultimately, while many of the reviews coming out today are overly optimistic and positive about the game, there are still some reviews that are much more critical, and as some would say, much more real about their opinions. As mentioned, please consider checking out Mr. Matty Plays video, which I'll link in the description. Another review that seems very interesting, and yet one that I have not had the time to check out yet, is the one released by SkillUp, fittingly titled, I do not recommend Dragon Age the Veilguard. Based off some of the top comments though, it seems like one of the criticisms he might include in his video is one that we've talked about in prior videos on Veilguard, which is seemingly how the devs didn't want the player to be able to make any sort of evil choices, that they'd be too quote-unquote icky, so to speak, which was apparently...
Yeah, and again, they do this with any, like, you can tell these design decisions are in games because, like, Star Wars The Outlaws, where you're an outlaw, but you can't just rob people and be a dick, right? You can't shoot and kill the animals and bust them in the fucking head, right? In this game, you can't be an asshole. And in some situations, the game, there is no asshole dialogue, or there is one, but your player says something completely different than what you chose, right? Like, people see these aspects in the game, it's like, what the fuck? I mean, is this supposed to be an RPG? Or am I just in some linear again, they took anything that made an RPG, well, most of the things that make RPG, they threw it out because, again, they genuinely do not want you to play the game maybe the way you would want to. Again, and there's absolutely a narrative and story aspect behind being the bad guy, being the asshole, right? Many games had this in the old games had this in the past, where you were the villain. Like in Wrath of the Lich King, when you played the Lich King and you massacred just a village of elves. Why? Because they were just between you and the Lich King. So it was effectively for no reason, and you felt bad, right? But being an interactive medium, you had to play the game. You know, you consented to the grim and dark when you paid that money and you're playing the game. And I didn't fucking like it, but I still played it. I mean, there is a story behind being the bad guy, being the asshole, like, and it's fiction, so it's not a moral compass, right?
Apparently some of the logic as to why they also removed the options for blood magic. As you know, many people and companies are currently attempting to prop this game up. However, given how terrible the situation looks, it seems highly unlikely that they'll succeed in the long run. Ultimately, of course, make up your own opinion on this game, but from what I've seen so far, it's not looking good at all. One of the most disturbing things, as we just talked about a moment ago, is how so many gaming companies like Bioware, etc., have willingly decided to go down this path. Let me know what you think about all this stuff in the comments. As always, thank you so much for tuning in, and if you enjoyed my coverage, please consider liking and or subscribing to the channel. Appreciate ya, and I'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, I mean, well, what more is there to say? I mean, he pretty much covered it. The video pretty much covered it. I am 30 seconds in and already dead from cringe. Yep, I mean, why'd you even buy the damn game? Dialogue definitely doesn't feel fancy. It just feels like dialogue in a modern movie between teenagers. Yep. I identify as a non-binary for this one. Oh my god, yeah, we should spread this. Oh my god. Holy hell, the dialogue is horrendous. Yeah, again, people who've played games, again, you might not know how to tell a story, but you've read stories, good dialogue, and played probably hundreds of thousands of hours of games in the past, and you know what good dialogue is, and you know what bad dialogue is, right? You don't have to make a computer from the ground up to know when one doesn't work or doesn't fucking function, right? I mean, you know, and even if you don't like some of the things in the past, I mean, maybe some people do, like, you knew it was genuine, you knew it wasn't just ideology being shoved down your fucking throat. Qunari demilitaristic society based on a religion where people has set roles that they are forced to follow. Qunari and DIADAV. You can be anything you want and you should respect each other's choices. Yeah. Take away fantasy. Take away the fantasy that makes races fantasy. And again, they're just effectively humans that cosplay as Qunari. The Qun says you take care of people. Where the hell did that come from? It's like they just forgot all about the Qunari social structure and how they treat the weak. Yeah. FML. Yes. Like, they don't care about the story. They don't care about what makes the Qunari, right? They just care about ideology and the fact that they coveted the position. You don't get to tell me who I am. Someone actually wrote this element. Yeah, that this is a rant, right? One of the DEI hires or one of the consultants just had a fucking rant and added it to the game. I'm non-binary. I'm using they, not she anymore. All I asked was if you wanted chicken with your meat. Yes. Yes. When you say we're waiting for reviews, what you really mean is that we're waiting for reviews from critics we judge to be unbiased. Our favorite reviewers. Yes. Absolutely. But EA never disappoints when it comes to disappointing us. Yeah, I mean, EA, it's not that they're inconsistent. They are consistently bad, right? And EA is the only one that has this moniker, right? Because at least Bioware used to be good. They used to make good games. Same thing with Ubisoft. Like, all the AAA companies that are shitting the bed used to be good. EA has just always been consistently garbage, right? Bioware becoming buyers beware or something. Oh, thanks for the new fucking title of this video. Yeah. But, I mean, anyway, that's all I got. I need to stop shitting on this game, but this game's like a gold mine of content for, like, the 5 people that actually watch my videos. Like, we be eating good. We be eating fucking good. But anyway, peace.